Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl, and it's been only a few days since we had the Greenskin pre-order release window announced. We now have the Adepticon Preview, which is showing yet another faction release, which is the Orc and Goblin arch nemesis, the Dwarfen Mountain Holds. So let's take a look at the Warhammer Community article, which covers the preview released as part of Adepticon, and see what is included. So, Dwarfen Mountain Holds, here we are. Right, so the battalion box, that we've got a clear view of that. Okay, so some Dwarf Warriors, Quarrelers, and some Gyrocopter, or a Gyrocopter and a Gyro Bomber. Let's see exactly what it has. So, 66 miniatures, that's on the lower end in terms of actual miniatures, but you do have obviously the Gyrocopter stuff in it. So you've got 32 Dwarf Warriors, 32 Dwarf Quarrelers, which can also be built as Thunderers. That's quite nice. You've got 2 Gyrocopters, which can also be built as Gyro Bombers. So you can either have Gyrocopters or Gyro Bombers. Like the Quarrelers there, you can build them either or. Actually, not too bad. Dwarf Warriors, they make a reasonable core. I think, obviously, as we've seen with all the battalion boxes, the infantry units have been core. So that's not surprising. I think a lot of people have defaulted to Quarrelers to make up their core points, but, Dwarf Warriors are okay to do that. So overall, not a bad box. I actually really like the Gyrocopters. So, in fact, I actually plan on running about 3 Gyrocopters in one of the army lists I put together for my dwarves. So actually, I think this is not a bad battalion box at all. Okay, we've got our Arcane Journal. That's expected, and as expected in that, let's see, 48 pages. We've got extra lore. We've got the 2 armies of infamy. That's pretty standard. Handful of extra units, magical items, 2 special characters. And reference cards covering runes, useful rules, Anvil of Doom, and so on. Okay, so, yep, everything there as expected. So, new miniatures. Okay, this guy looks quite interesting. So, 4 totally new miniatures for dwarves. The first 2 of these are Dwarf Lords who arrive in the same box. Okay, 1 Dwarf Lord borne aloft by shield bearers and the other on foot. Okay, so the kit allows for 1 great weapon and 1 axe and shield, has interchangeable heads and comes in plastic. I actually quite like this, I have to say. Normally I don't like, characters up high on a tactical rock in the middle of a unit, but actually this makes sense. Because he's actually being carried, he's kind of stood. So I actually don't mind this on a unit. It really does make sense. And actually, the detailing on it looks really cool. Kind of odd that he's being carried on a shield. And his shield bearers have no shields themselves. But overall, I like the aesthetic here. The detailing on it looks really good. And I say I really don't mind the height that you get from this, because it makes sense rather than having a giant rock in the middle of the formation. So yeah, actually quite nice, and obviously fits in with the shield bearers, sort of optional extra, if you like, for a Dwarf Lord. So yeah, I like it. Let's see the other one. So the other one here, yeah, this is the second one. So you get 2 in the same box. So you get this is the one on foot. Okay, kind of some sort of scaly, cloaky thing, potentially, looking here. He's got the axe and the shield. Yeah, and again, nice detailing. Overall, I think he looks quite nice. Nice he's in plastic. Plastic is always good, in my mind. So, yeah, overall, I think this is a pretty nice new release. In fact, you get 2 Lords in 1 box. Actually, not a bad thing. No reason why you can't use him as a Lord with a shield bearer and use him as a Thane. You could do that. So, yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. Okay, next up, Forge World Resin. Okay, so we've got Dwarf Thane with a handgun. He's striking a pose on an oath stone. You don't obviously have to give him that, it's just a tactical rock. Immune to psychology, yeah. That's what the oath stone does. Also in Forge World Resin, you face a face you might recognise. It's Ungrim Iron Fist. Okay, so he's actually a character from original Warhammer Fantasy. That's pretty cool. So is he the... Actually, no, because we've had Cetra, right? So, but yeah, it's nice to see some of the older characters come back. I think a lot of people will be happy with that. Unfortunately, it's the Slayer one, and I'm not the biggest fan of Slayers overall. But if you want to make a Slayer army, then he's a great character to have. Thane with a handgun. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of just giving characters handguns, unless he was in a unit of Thunderers, for example. So that doesn't appeal to me so much, personally, and I think most of the time I'm going to want to be putting, if I've got a Thane, probably a Thane with a battle standard in a unit. But that aside, still a nice looking model nonetheless. But yeah, these two ones, probably not something I'm going to pick up, but I do like the Dwarf Lords. Right, plastic kits. Okay, so yeah, we've got okay, yeah, Thunderers, yeah, okay, Iron Breakers, Hammerers. Okay, so in total we have Iron Breakers, Hammerers, Warriors, Miners, and Quarrelers in there. So they're all coming back in plastic. That's good. Regiments are joined by Slayer of Legend, the King on Oathstone, the Runesmith, the Gyrocopter, and the Cannons, which also build organ guns. So, okay, yeah, pretty good overall. So yeah, if we just run through that, so we've got him, your Warriors, yeah, Thunderers and Quarrelers. Okay, yeah, overall, pretty nice. Pretty nice. I love the battle standard. That's cool. Again, I'm not a big Slayer fan, but the battle standard here looks really great. There's just one set of miniatures returning in Forge World Resin, but they're a doozy, much missed Dwarf command set containing a Lord, a Thane with battle standard, and a Slayer of Legend. So this is Forge World Resin. This is Forge World Resin, but this battle standard is really nice. I really like this. I think it's cool. Okay, so far there's a lot here. There's a lot here. Metal kits, right? So amid the returning metal miniatures that some of the true Longbeards classic sculpts rather than the elite infantry unit make an appearance, but we'll start with the ordnance. So you've got the grudge throwers coming back in metal, the bolt throwers coming back in metal, the flame cannon, the anvil of doom, and a group of master engineers. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. Overall, I think grudge thrower is quite interesting. Anvil of doom is interesting. Master engineers, if you're going to be running plenty of artillery like myself. Flame cannon, I'm less. I like less, and the same with the bolt thrower. But still, good to see them all there and giving people plenty of choice to play factions the way they want to play them. And I think that's the biggest thing is, releasing these factions. I think that's one of the things I've, it's been good to see. When some of the army lists came out, starting to get concerned. Warriors of Chaos, there were no Skull Crushers in there, for example. Some of the, sort of classic units were missing out of the list, and you kind of think, man, it cuts down kind of the variety. But so far, from what I've seen and from the rules I've been through, it looks like most of the factions have plenty of choice. It looks like they're releasing with plenty of models, albeit in multiple waves. But the choice is not only in the models you can buy, but seems to be pretty reasonable choice and still being viable, which I think is great. which I think is great. You know, same with the greenskins. If you don't want to run trolls, like myself, you run it a way that you want to run it. If you want to run all trolls, great, it's still viable. And I think the same here with dwarves. Lots of choice, and you know, from a rule perspective, it looks like, you know, that choice gives you plenty of options, and not expect to be tabled in the second turn. So great. Okay, we've got our classic Slayers in here. Again, not my flavour, but yeah, these models not so much. I mean, it's interesting. Some of the classic models, some of them hold up, some of them don't. From a personal opinion, you know, for me, there's lots of people out there that particularly want these classic models, and you know, and I think that again, you know, it's all absolutely personal choice what you like and what you don't like. Personally, I'm not a big fan of Slayers anyway, so. Okay, so then we've got a selection of Imperial Dwarfs and their command, also from the early 90s, and Joseph Bugman's cart to round it all off. So this is the made-to-order stuff. So we're getting a whole bunch of made-to-order as well. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, these are, again, I mean, great for collectors. For me, you know, I mean, cool to see, and like I say, if you're a collector and everything, great. But you can see the difference in the aesthetic. They would look quite different if you were putting it in an army with all the plastic stuff we've seen above. So, but you know, it's great they're bringing it all back for those people that have, you know, old classic armies that really want these really old models. That's great. For those that are looking for, you know, some of the latter half of Warhammer Fantasy when it was about in terms of models, they're coming back as well. So there's something here to suit everyone. You've got, you know, the really old classic collector's items, or for people that have just a couple of gaps in a really, really old style of army and miniatures. You've got the sort of the intermediate, and then you've got sort of the more modern day aesthetic as well. So yeah, I think this is great. It's a great preview. There's plenty here, which is great, and it's nice to get another faction reveal. However, you know, looking at how long it took from the orcs and goblins to be released out of the release of the game, it's kind of around about 2.5 to 3 months. So if you think these are being previewed now, maybe 2 to 3 months away, which kind of puts them, what's that, sort of April, May, June, around sort of end of May, beginning of June time, maybe, that we'll see the dwarves. So not too far away, and it, you know, GW is certainly getting things out of pace, given you know, given the difficulty from logistics, production, certainly stocking, which has been a major problem. Not just in the old world, but in other areas as well. But stocking has been a big problem. So interesting to see them getting these out. But the quicker they get all these factions out, the better. And hopefully they're moving at this kind of pace because they're seeing the interest in Warhammer the Old World, as they mentioned in another article about how they were a bit surprised at how popular the Old World has been, and which can only be a good thing. So you've got also Prince Ulfr returns at the head of his dragon company. So you've got the impetuous prince himself, his champion, Borry Forkbeard, standard bearer, musician. The other contains 5 doughty warriors, creating a regiment of renown used as mercenaries by dwarf or imperial armies. Okay. On top of that, yet further into the future, there are 5 more sets of mighty dwarven legends to be made to order. These include a set of 5 metal lords, 3 metal runesmiths, 4 metal dragon and demon slayers, 1 metal dwarf queen, a lord, a thane, a standard bearer in resin. So this is a lot. There's a lot there, guys. A lot to be revealed. A lot of choice. Absolutely great. Really, really pleased. Really pleased that they're putting out this variety. I'm pleasantly surprised at the amount of variety, the amount of stuff they're bringing back. You know, both in made to order and also for a more continuous release. So, yeah, only positive things to say about this, which is great. price not to be discussed. That's the end of this article. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit the subscribe button. Free for you to do. It takes a few seconds to do. I really do appreciate it. It's a big deal for me, and thank you to all those that have subscribed already. You've been watching The Ghost Owl, and I'll see you all very, very soon.